The story of a 12-year-old boy with his mother will shock you. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sizzling bacon usually filled the Thompson household on Saturday mornings, a comforting ritual that signaled the start of a relaxing weekend. But this Saturday was different. The air was thick with a silence that was more suffocating than any noise could have been. 10-year-old Sajid sat at the kitchen table, picking at his cold cereal, his usual appetite gone. His younger sister, 8-year-old Maya, played listlessly with her dolls, her usually bright chatter subdued. Their mother, Eleanor, stood by the window, staring out at the quiet suburban street, her shoulders slumped with a weariness that went beyond physical exhaustion. Just 2 days earlier, their world had been shattered. Michael Thompson, Sajid and Maya's father, a loving husband and a dedicated provider, had suffered a massive heart attack at work. He had been rushed to the hospital, but it had been too late. He was gone, leaving a gaping hole in their lives. Michael had been the bedrock of the family, a pillar of strength and stability. He had worked as an accountant at a local firm, a job he enjoyed and excelled at. He had always provided for his family, ensuring they had a comfortable home in a quiet neighborhood of Columbus, Ohio, good schools, and everything they needed. More than that, he had been a present and engaged father. He had coached Sajid's little league team, helped Maya with her art projects, and read them bedtime stories every night. He had been Eleanor's partner, her confidant, her best friend. The suddenness of his death had left them reeling, struggling to comprehend the enormity of their loss. The funeral had been a blur of tears, condolences, and well-meaning but ultimately hollow platitudes. Now, the reality of their situation was beginning to sink in. Sajid looked at his mother, her face pale and drawn, her eyes red-rimmed from crying. He had never seen her look so lost, so vulnerable. He wanted to say something, to comfort her, but the words wouldn't come. He felt a knot of fear tightening in his stomach. He missed his father terribly. He missed his booming laugh, his strong hugs, his reassuring presence. He missed the way his father would toss him in the air, the way he would patiently explain his math homework, the way he would always make him feel safe and loved. Maya, too young to fully grasp the permanence of death, kept asking when Daddy was coming home. Each time, Eleanor would have to explain, her voice breaking, that Daddy was in heaven now, and he wouldn't be coming back. The silence in the house was broken only by the occasional sob, the muffled sounds of grief. The once vibrant home, filled with laughter and love, now felt empty and hollow, a shell of its former self. As Sajid pushed his cereal around his bowl, he couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled over him. He knew, with a child's intuitive understanding, that their lives had changed forever, that nothing would ever be the same again. The day his father died was the day everything changed, the day their world turned upside down. The comfortable, secure life they had known was gone, replaced by an uncertain future filled with fear and grief. The weeks following Michael's death were a blur of paperwork, legal procedures, and difficult decisions. Eleanor, still numb with grief, found herself overwhelmed by the responsibilities that had suddenly fallen upon her shoulders. She had been a stay-at-home mother, relying entirely on Michael's income. Now, she had to navigate the complexities of life insurance policies, social security benefits, and the daunting prospect of finding a job. She spent hours on the phone, talking to lawyers, insurance agents, and government officials. She filled out endless forms, her head swimming with unfamiliar jargon and legal terms. She felt lost, adrift in a sea of bureaucracy and red tape. The financial strain quickly became apparent. Michael's life insurance policy provided a small payout, enough to cover the funeral expenses and a few months of mortgage payments, but it wasn't nearly enough to sustain them long-term. Eleanor, determined to keep her family afloat, started looking for work. She had no recent job experience, having been out of the workforce for over a decade. She applied for any position she could find: waitress, cashier, receptionist. But she was repeatedly turned down, her lack of experience and her visible grief working against her. Finally, she found a job as a cleaning lady, working for a local cleaning service. It was physically demanding work, long hours for low pay, but it was the only option she had. She would leave early in the morning, before Sajid and Maya were awake, and return late at night, exhausted and aching. She tried to hide her fatigue, to put on a brave face for her children, but they saw the weariness in her eyes, the slump in her shoulders, the worrying lines that had etched themselves onto her face. Sajid, witnessing his mother's struggles, felt a growing sense of responsibility. He tried to help around the house, doing chores, taking care of Maya, anything to ease her burden. But he was just a child, and there was only so much he could do. He felt helpless, frustrated, and increasingly anxious about their future. The once comfortable home began to show signs of neglect. The lawn became overgrown, the paint started to peel, and minor repairs went undone. They had to cut back on expenses, eliminating all non-essential items. They stopped eating out, canceled their cable subscription, and turned the thermostat down to save on heating costs. Sajid and Maya no longer received allowances, and their birthdays and holidays were scaled-down affairs. The biggest change, however, was the constant worrying that hung over them like a dark cloud. Every bill that arrived, every unexpected expense, brought a fresh wave of anxiety. They were living on the edge, one paycheck away from disaster. Eleanor, despite her best efforts, couldn't hide her stress from her children. They saw her poring over bills late at night, her brow furrowed in concentration. They heard her on the phone, pleading with creditors for extensions. They felt the tension in the air, the unspoken fear that permeated their lives. Sajid, in particular, was deeply affected by his mother's struggles. He missed his father terribly, but he also felt a growing sense of responsibility for his mother and sister. He knew he had to be strong, to help them in any way he could, but he didn't know how. He was just a child, facing a world that had suddenly become cold, harsh, and unforgiving. The stress and hardship at home began to take a toll on Sajid's schoolwork. Once a bright and enthusiastic student, he became withdrawn and distracted. He struggled to concentrate in class, his mind filled with worries about his family. He started forgetting to do his homework, his grades slipping from As and Bs to Cs and Dis. He lost interest in his favorite subjects, his passion for learning dulled by the constant anxiety that gnawed at him. He used to enjoy playing soccer with his friends after school, but now he found himself making excuses, preferring to go straight home to help his mother. He missed the camaraderie, the physical exertion, the simple joy of playing a game. The biggest problem, however, was the hunger. Eleanor was doing her best to provide for her children, but with her meager income, it was a constant struggle to put food on the table. Sajid often went to school with an empty stomach, or with just a piece of toast or a bowl of cereal. He would try to ignore the rumbling in his belly, the lightheadedness, the gnawing emptiness that made it impossible to focus. During lunch, he would watch his classmates eat their sandwiches, their chips, their fruit, his mouth watering, his stomach aching. He couldn't afford to buy lunch at the school cafeteria, and he was too ashamed to ask for free meals. He started to avoid his friends, embarrassed by his rumpled clothes, his worn-out shoes, and his constant hunger. He felt like an outsider, a pariah, separated from his peers by a chasm of poverty and grief. He began to dread going to school. The place that had once been a source of joy and learning now felt like a torment. He felt isolated, alone, and increasingly hopeless. His teachers noticed the change in him. He was no longer the bright, engaged student they had known. He was withdrawn, distracted, and his academic performance was plummeting. They tried to talk to him, to understand what was happening, but Sajid was reluctant to open up. He was ashamed of his family's situation, afraid of being judged, afraid of being pitied. He kept his struggles to himself, burying his emotions deep inside, trying to appear strong and resilient. But inside, he was crumbling. He felt like he was drowning in a sea of despair, with no one to rescue him. His grades continued to decline, his attendance became sporadic, and he started to fall further and further behind. He was on the verge of failing 5th grade, a prospect that filled him with dread and a sense of failure. He knew he needed help, but he didn't know where to turn. He felt lost, alone, and utterly helpless. Mr. Bilal, Sajid's 5th grade teacher, was a young, compassionate man with a genuine love for teaching and a deep concern for his students. He had noticed Sajid's decline over the past few months, the gradual erosion of his academic performance, his increasing withdrawal, and his overall air of sadness. Mr. Bilal had tried to reach out to Sajid, asking him if everything was all right, offering extra help, and encouraging him to participate in class. But Sajid had remained guarded, deflecting his questions with vague answers and avoiding eye contact. Mr. Bilal was concerned. He knew that something was deeply wrong, but he didn't know what it was or how to help. He had seen this pattern before, in other students who were struggling with difficult circumstances at home. He knew that it was crucial to intervene, to offer support, before Sajid slipped too far. One afternoon, after school, Mr. Bilal asked Sajid to stay behind. The classroom was empty, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the desks. Sajid, Mr. Bilal began, his voice gentle, I'm worried about you. You're not yourself lately. You're not participating in class, your grades are slipping, and you seem distant. Sajid looked down at his hands, his fingers fidgeting with a loose thread on his worn-out backpack. He didn't want to talk about it, didn't want to admit his family's struggles, didn't want to expose his vulnerability. I'm fine, Mr. Bilal, he mumbled. Just tired. Mr. Bilal sighed. He knew it wasn't that simple. He sat down on a desk next to Sajid, his posture relaxed and non-threatening. Sajid, he said softly, I know something's going on. You don't have to tell me everything, but please, let me help you. I'm here for you. He paused, giving Sajid a chance to respond. When Sajid remained silent, Mr. Bilal continued, I've been a teacher for a few years now, he said, and I've seen a lot of kids struggle. Sometimes, things happen at home that make it hard to focus on school. Family problems, financial difficulties, illness. It can all affect a student's ability to learn. He looked at Sajid, his gaze empathetic. Is there anything going on at home that you'd like to talk about? Sajid hesitated, his eyes welling with tears. He was torn between his desire to keep his family's struggles private and his desperate need for help. He looked at Mr. Bilal, at his kind face, his understanding eyes, and he felt a glimmer of hope. He saw a genuine concern, a willingness to listen, a promise of support. He took a deep breath, and the words started to tumble out, a torrent of grief, fear, and anxiety. He told Mr. Bilal about his father's death, about his mother's struggles, about their financial hardship, about his constant hunger. Mr. Bilal listened patiently, without interrupting, without judging. He simply listened, offering a safe space for Sajid to express his pain, his fears, his vulnerabilities. As Sajid spoke, the weight on his chest began to lift, the knot of anxiety loosening. He felt a sense of relief, of catharsis, of finally being able to share his burden with someone who cared. When Sajid finished, Mr. Bilal placed a hand on his shoulder, his touch gentle and reassuring. Thank you for sharing that with me, Sajid, he said. I know it wasn't easy, but I want you to know that you're not alone. We'll get through this together. Mr. Bilal's words were more than just empty platitudes, they were a promise of action. He knew he couldn't solve all of Sajid's problems, but he could certainly make a difference. He started small, with a simple act of kindness that would have a profound impact on Sajid's life. The next day, during lunch break, Mr. Bilal approached Sajid discreetly. Sajid, he said, I know you haven't been eating lunch lately. I packed an extra sandwich today. Would you like it? Sajid looked up at him, his eyes wide with surprise and gratitude. He was hesitant at first, ashamed to accept charity, but his hunger overcame his pride. Thank you, Mr. Bilal, he mumbled, accepting the sandwich. It was a simple sandwich, ham and cheese on whole wheat, but to Sajid, it tasted like the most delicious meal he had ever eaten. It was more than just food, it was a symbol of hope, of compassion, of someone caring enough to notice his struggles. Mr. Bilal continued to provide Sajid with lunch every day, discreetly slipping him a sandwich, a piece of fruit, or a granola bar. He never made a big deal out of it, never drew attention to Sajid's situation, never made him feel like a charity case. He also started spending extra time with Sajid after school, helping him with his homework, reviewing concepts he had missed, and encouraging him to participate in class. He saw the potential in Sajid, the intelligence and the determination that were hidden beneath the layers of grief and hardship. He made learning fun again, engaging Sajid with interactive activities, real-world examples, and a genuine enthusiasm for the subject matter. He rekindled Sajid's love of learning, his curiosity, his desire to succeed. Sajid, nourished both physically and intellectually, began to blossom. His grades improved, his attendance became regular, and he started to participate in class again. He rediscovered his joy in learning, his passion for knowledge, and his confidence in his abilities. He also started to open up to Mr. Bilal, sharing his thoughts, his feelings, and his dreams. He found in Mr. Bilal not just a teacher, but a mentor, a confidant, and a friend. Mr. Bilal, in turn, learned more about Sajid's family, about their struggles, about Eleanor's tireless efforts to provide for her children, and about the gaping hole that Michael's death had left in their lives. He realized that providing Sajid with lunch was just a temporary solution, a band-aid on a much larger wound. He needed to do more, to find a way to help the entire family. he began to think about ways he could provide more substantial and sustainable support without compromising their dignity or making them feel like charity cases. He wanted to empower them, to help them regain their footing, to give them a chance to rebuild their lives. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to try. He had seen the spark in Sajid, the resilience in Eleanor, and he believed in their ability to overcome adversity. Mr. Bilal's concern extended beyond Sajid's immediate needs. He understood that the family's financial struggles were the root cause of many of their problems, and he was determined to find a way to help. He started small, by discreetly paying Sajid's overdue school fees. He knew that Eleanor would be too proud to accept direct financial assistance, so he found ways to help indirectly, without making it obvious. He then began to bring extra groceries to school, ostensibly for himself, but always managing to forget some items, leaving them in Sajid's locker with a note saying, "Thought you might need these." The bags contained nutritious food, fruits, vegetables, bread, milk, eggs, and occasionally a small treat like cookies or a piece of chocolate. Sajid, initially hesitant, accepted the gifts with gratitude. He knew that Mr. Bilal was going out of his way to help his family, and he appreciated it more than words could express. One evening, Mr. Bilal decided to visit Sajid's home. He wanted to meet Eleanor, to assess the family's situation firsthand, and to offer his support in a more personal way. He called Eleanor beforehand, introducing himself as Sajid's teacher and expressing his concern for Sajid's well-being. Eleanor, initially apprehensive, agreed to meet him. When Mr. Bilal arrived at their modest home, he was struck by the starkness of their living conditions. The furniture was worn, the walls were bare, and the air was filled with a sense of quiet desperation. But he also saw the love, the resilience, and the unwavering bond between Eleanor and her children. Eleanor welcomed him warmly, offering him a cup of tea, the only beverage she could afford. They sat at the kitchen table, the same table where Sajid had sat, picking at his cold cereal, on the morning after his father's death. Mr. Bilal spoke with compassion and understanding, expressing his admiration for Eleanor's strength and her dedication to her children. He shared his observations of Sajid, praising his intelligence, his resilience, and his potential. He then gently broached the subject of their financial struggles, offering his assistance in a way that was respectful and non-judgmental. "I know things are tough right now, Mrs. Thompson," he said, "and I want to help. I'm not a wealthy man, but I can certainly afford to provide some groceries for your family each month. It's not charity, it's simply one human being helping another." Eleanor was initially reluctant, her pride preventing her from accepting what she perceived as a handout. But Mr. Bilal persisted, assuring her that it was not charity, but a gesture of friendship and support. He explained that he had a large family and often bought groceries in bulk, and that it was no trouble for him to share some with them. He emphasized that he wanted to help Sajid succeed, and that providing nutritious food for the family was a crucial part of that. Finally, Eleanor relented, tears welling in her eyes. She was overwhelmed by Mr. Bilal's kindness, his genuine concern, and his unwavering support. "Thank you, Mr. Bilal," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "You have no idea how much this means to us." From that day forward, Mr. Bilal became a regular visitor to the Thompson household. He would bring groceries, help Sajid with his homework, and offer Eleanor a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on. He became a friend, a mentor, and a lifeline for the struggling family. He had extended his support beyond Sajid's immediate needs, providing a foundation of stability and hope for the entire family. With Mr. Bilal's unwavering support, Sajid's academic performance underwent a dramatic transformation. The constant hunger that had once clouded his mind was replaced by a renewed focus, a clarity of thought that allowed him to absorb information and excel in his studies. He started paying attention in class, actively participating in discussions, and completing his assignments with diligence and enthusiasm. He rediscovered his love of learning, his curiosity about the world, and his ambition to succeed. Mr. Bilal continued to provide individualized instruction, tailoring his teaching methods to Sajid's specific needs and learning style. He challenged Sajid, pushing him to reach his full potential, but he also provided the support and encouragement he needed to overcome his challenges. Sajid's grades soared, his report cards transforming from a collection of Cs and Ds to a string of S and Bs. He earned praise from his teachers, recognition from his peers, and a newfound sense of pride in his accomplishments. He also rediscovered his love for soccer, joining the school team and becoming a star player. He found joy in the physical exertion, the camaraderie of his teammates, and the thrill of competition. He was no longer the withdrawn, isolated boy he had been. He was a confident, engaged, and thriving young man. His transformation was not just academic, it was also emotional and social. He became more outgoing, more confident, and more resilient. He learned to cope with his grief, to manage his anxiety, and to face challenges with courage and determination. He also learned the importance of kindness, compassion, and giving back. He started volunteering at a local soup kitchen, helping to feed the homeless and sharing his own story of overcoming adversity. He became a mentor to younger students, offering them guidance and support, just as Mr. Bilal had done for him. Eleanor, witnessing her son's remarkable turnaround, was filled with gratitude and pride. She saw the positive influence Mr. Bilal had on Sajid's life, and she was deeply grateful for his unwavering support. She also began to heal, to find a renewed sense of purpose and hope. She started taking evening classes, pursuing a GED, with the goal of eventually finding a better paying job. She was inspired by Sajid's determination, and she was determined to create a better future for her children. The Thompson family, once on the brink of despair, was slowly but surely rebuilding their lives. They had faced unimaginable hardship, but they had emerged stronger, more resilient, and more deeply connected than ever before. Mr. Bilal's simple act of kindness, his willingness to extend a helping hand, had set in motion a chain of positive events that had transformed their lives. He had not only provided them with material support, but he had also given them something even more valuable: hope, encouragement, and the belief in their own ability to overcome adversity. He had shown them that even in the darkest of times, there was always light to be found, and that kindness could change the world, one person at a time. Years passed, marked by Sajid's continued academic success, his growing maturity, and his deepening bond with Mr. Bilal. Sajid excelled in high school, earning top grades, participating in extracurricular activities, and becoming a respected leader among his peers. He never forgot Mr. Bilal's kindness, the profound impact he had had on his life. He continued to visit Mr. Bilal regularly, sharing his accomplishments, seeking his advice, and expressing his gratitude. Mr. Bilal, in turn, took immense pride in Sajid's achievements. He saw in Sajid the embodiment of his own teaching philosophy, the belief that every student, regardless of their circumstances, had the potential to succeed. Sajid also maintained a close relationship with his mother and sister. He helped Eleanor with household chores, provided emotional support, and became a role model for Maya. He was determined to give his family the stable and secure life they deserved. Eleanor, having earned her GED, found a job as a bookkeeper at a local business. It wasn't a glamorous job, but it was stable, well-paying, and it allowed her to provide for her children without relying on charity. She was proud of her own accomplishments, and she was even prouder of Sajid's success. The Thompson family, once fractured by grief and hardship, had become a strong and resilient unit. They had learned the importance of family, the power of perseverance, and the enduring value of kindness. During his senior year of high school, Sajid applied to several universities, his sights set on a career in engineering. He had always been fascinated by how things worked, and he dreamed of designing and building structures that would benefit society. He received acceptance letters from several prestigious universities, but one stood out above the rest: Ohio State University, which offered him a full academic scholarship. It was a dream come true, a testament to his hard work, his dedication, and the unwavering support he had received from his family and Mr. Bilal. Sajid shared the news with Mr. Bilal, his voice filled with excitement and gratitude. "Mr. Bilal, I got in," he exclaimed. "I got a full scholarship to Ohio State." Mr. Bilal beamed with pride, his eyes welling with tears. "Sajid, I am so proud of you," he said. "I knew you could do it. You have a bright future ahead of you." Sajid hugged Mr. Bilal tightly, expressing his heartfelt gratitude. "I couldn't have done it without you, Mr. Bilal," he said. "You changed my life. You believed in me when I didn't even believe in myself." Mr. Bilal smiled, his heart filled with warmth. "You did the work, Sajid," he said. "I just gave you a little nudge in the right direction." As Sajid prepared to leave for college, he felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. He was eager to start this new chapter in his life, But he was also nervous about leaving his family and the familiar comfort of Havenwood. He knew, however, that he was ready. He had faced adversity, overcome challenges, and emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. He had the support of his family, the guidance of Mr. Bilal, and the determination to succeed. He was ready to take on the world, to make his mark, and to give back to the community that had supported him. Throughout Sajid's high school years, his relationship with Mr. Bilal had evolved beyond that of student and teacher. Mr. Bilal had become a mentor, a father figure, and a close friend. Sajid had also gotten to know Mr. Bilal's family, who welcomed him with open arms. Mr. Bilal was married to a warm and gracious woman named Alia, a nurse at the local hospital. They had one daughter, Sarah, who was a few years younger than Sajid. Sarah was a bright, compassionate, and artistic young woman. She shared her father's kindness and his commitment to helping others. She was studying to become a social worker, inspired by her father's dedication to his students and her mother's work in healthcare. Sajid and Sarah developed a close friendship, bonding over their shared values, their academic interests, and their mutual respect for Mr. Bilal. They spent time together studying, volunteering at the local community center, and simply enjoying each other's company. Sarah admired Sajid's resilience, his determination to overcome adversity, and his unwavering gratitude to her father. She saw in him a kind, compassionate, and ambitious young man, someone who shared her desire to make a positive impact on the world. Sajid, in turn, was drawn to Sarah's warmth, her intelligence, and her genuine empathy. He appreciated her artistic talent, her passion for social justice, and her unwavering support for his dreams. Their friendship gradually blossomed into something more, a subtle shift in their feelings that neither of them could deny. They found themselves spending more and more time together, their conversations deepening, their laughter becoming more frequent, their connection growing stronger. They were cautious, however, hesitant to jeopardize their friendship or to complicate their relationship with Mr. Bilal. They kept their feelings to themselves, unsure of how to navigate this new and unfamiliar territory. As Sajid prepared to leave for college, the unspoken feelings between him and Sarah became more intense. They both realized that the distance would make it difficult to maintain their close connection, and they were afraid of losing what they had. One evening, a few weeks before Sajid's departure, they were sitting on the porch swing at the Bilal's house, watching the sunset. The air was filled with the sounds of crickets chirping and the distant murmur of traffic. Sajid, gathering his courage, turned to Sarah. "Sarah," he began, his voice hesitant, "I need to tell you something." Sarah looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension. She had a feeling she knew what he was going to say, and her heart beat faster. I have feelings for you, Sarah," Sajid confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "More than just friendship. I've had them for a while now, and I didn't know how to tell you." Sarah smiled, a soft, radiant smile that lit up her face. "I have feelings for you too, Sajid," she said. "I have for a while now." They looked at each other, their eyes locking, their hearts filled with a mix of joy, relief, and a touch of trepidation. They had finally acknowledged their feelings, but they still had to navigate the complexities of their situation. They talked for hours that night, sharing their hopes, their fears, and their dreams for the future. They decided to take things slowly, to see where their relationship would lead them, and to be open and honest with Mr. Bilal about their feelings. They knew that their relationship would face challenges, particularly the distance between them while Sajid was at college. But they were determined to make it work, to nurture their connection, and to build a future together. They had found in each other not just a romantic partner, but a soulmate, a confidant, and a best friend. They were two young people, brought together by circumstance and kindness, ready to embark on a new chapter in their lives, a chapter filled with love, hope, and the promise of a shared future. Sajid's departure for Ohio State University was a bittersweet occasion. He was excited about the opportunity to pursue his engineering degree, to experience college life, and to broaden his horizons. But he was also sad to leave his family, his friends, and the town that had become his home. Eleanor, Maya, and Mr. Bilal and his family saw him off at the bus station, their faces a mixture of pride, sadness, and unwavering support. "We're so proud of you, Sajid," Eleanor said, hugging him tightly. "You've worked so hard, and you deserve this." "We'll miss you, big brother," Maya said, her eyes welling with tears. "Study hard, Sajid," Mr. Bilal said, clapping him on the shoulder. "And don't forget to call." We want to hear all about your adventures. Sarah, standing beside her father, gave Sajid a warm smile. We'll be waiting for you, she said, her eyes conveying the depth of their unspoken feelings. Sajid boarded the bus, his heart filled with a mix of emotions. He was leaving behind everything he knew, but he was also embarking on a new and exciting journey. He was determined to make the most of this opportunity, to honor the sacrifices his family had made, and to repay the kindness that Mr. Bilal had shown him. College life was challenging but rewarding. Sajid thrived in his engineering classes, his passion for the subject fueled by his desire to make a difference in the world. He made new friends, joined student organizations, and explored the vibrant campus life. He also maintained a long-distance relationship with Sarah, their bond strengthening despite the miles that separated them. They talked on the phone every night, sharing their experiences, their dreams, and their unwavering support for each other. Sajid excelled in his studies, earning top grades and impressing his professors. He secured internships at leading engineering firms, gaining valuable real-world experience and expanding his network of contacts. He also made time to give back to the community, volunteering at local schools and mentoring underprivileged students. He never forgot the struggles he had faced, and he was determined to help others overcome adversity. As his graduation approached, Sajid began to think about his future plans. He had several job offers from prestigious engineering firms, but he was also considering other options. He had a strong desire to return to Havenwood, to give back to the community that had supported him, and to be closer to his family and Sarah. He had an idea, a dream that had been taking shape in his mind for years. He wanted to start his own engineering firm, a firm that would focus on sustainable development and community-based projects. He envisioned creating affordable housing, improving infrastructure, and creating jobs in his hometown. He shared his idea with Mr. Bilal, seeking his advice and guidance. Mr. Bilal, he said, I want to come back to Havenwood. I want to make a difference here, in the place that gave me so much. Mr. Bilal smiled, his eyes filled with pride. I always knew you would do great things, Sajid, he said. And I think that's a wonderful idea. Havenwood needs someone like you, someone with your talent, your vision, and your commitment to the community. With Mr. Bilal's encouragement and support, Sajid began to develop a business plan, researching funding opportunities, and connecting with potential partners. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was determined to make his dream a reality. He had overcome so many challenges in his life, and he was confident that he could overcome this one as well. He had a vision, a passion, and the unwavering support of his family and friends. He was ready to return to Havenwood, to give back to the community that had given him so much, and to build a future filled with purpose, meaning, and love. Just as Sajid was preparing to graduate and embark on his ambitious plans, life threw an unexpected curveball. Mr. Bilal, the man who had been a constant source of strength and support for Sajid and his family, suffered a serious setback. Mr. Bilal, while seemingly healthy, had been experiencing subtle symptoms for months. Unexplained fatigue, occasional chest pain, and shortness of breath. He had dismissed them as signs of aging, attributing them to the stress of his job and his busy life. One evening, while grading papers at his desk, Mr. Bilal experienced a sharp, crushing pain in his chest. He collapsed, clutching his chest, struggling to breathe. Alia, his wife, found him moments later, unconscious and unresponsive. She immediately called 911, her voice trembling with fear. Mr. Bilal was rushed to the hospital, the same hospital where Sajid's father had died years before. The diagnosis was grim, a major heart attack requiring immediate surgery. Sarah, who was in her final year of college, rushed to her father's side, her heart filled with terror. She had always been close to her father, admiring his kindness, his dedication to his students, and his unwavering commitment to his family. She called Sajid, her voice choked with sobs, relaying the news. Sajid, who was in the midst of his final exams, was devastated. He immediately packed his bags and booked the first flight back to Havenwood. He arrived at the hospital, his heart pounding with anxiety. He found Alia and Sarah in the waiting room, their faces pale and drawn, their eyes red-rimmed from crying. How is he? Sajid asked, his voice trembling. Alia shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. He's in surgery. It's ... It's single quotes, that's not looking good. Sajid felt a wave of despair wash over him. Mr. Bilal, the man who had been like a second father to him, the man who had changed his life, was fighting for his own. He sat with Alia and Sarah, holding their hands, offering words of comfort and support. They waited for hours, the silence punctuated by the beeping of monitors and the hushed whispers of medical staff. Finally, the surgeon emerged from the operating room, his face weary but cautiously optimistic. "The surgery was successful," he said, "but he's still in critical condition. He'll need a long recovery, and there's a risk of complications." Relief washed over them, mingled with a lingering fear. Mr. Bilal was alive, but his future was uncertain. The following days were a blur of hospital visits, medical updates, and anxious waiting. Mr. Bilal remained in the intensive care unit, his body weakened by the heart attack and the surgery. Sajid visited him every day, sitting by his bedside, talking to him, reading to him, even though Mr. Bilal was often unconscious. He wanted to be there for him, to offer the same support and encouragement that Mr. Bilal had given him so many years ago. He also helped Alia and Sarah with practical matters, running errands, taking care of household chores, and providing emotional support. He knew that they were struggling, both emotionally and financially. The medical bills were mounting, and Mr. Bilal's absence from work meant a loss of income. Alia, already working long hours as a nurse, was overwhelmed by the added burden. Sajid realized that this was his opportunity to repay the kindness that Mr. Bilal had shown him. He was now in a position to help, to offer the same support and generosity that had changed his life. He knew it was time to step up, to be the strong one, to be the pillar of support for the family that had given him so much. It was his turn to give back, to show his gratitude, and to demonstrate the enduring power of kindness and compassion. Sajid, seeing the financial strain on Mr. Bilal's family, knew he had to act. He had been saving diligently from his internships and part-time jobs during college, intending to use the money to start his engineering firm. But now, he saw a more immediate and pressing need. He discreetly approached Alia, offering to help with the medical bills and living expenses. "Alia," he said, his voice filled with sincerity, "Mr. Bilal has done so much for me and my family. I want to help. Please, let me contribute." Alia, initially hesitant, was overwhelmed by Sajid's generosity. She knew how much Mr. Bilal had invested in Sajid's future, both emotionally and financially, and she was deeply touched by his willingness to reciprocate. "Sajid, you don't have to do this," she said, her voice trembling. "You've already done so much." "I want to," Sajid insisted. "Mr. Bilal is like a father to me. I wouldn't be where I am today without him. This is the least I can do." Sajid's financial assistance provided a much-needed lifeline for the Bilal family. It alleviated their immediate financial worries, allowing them to focus on Mr. Bilal's recovery without the added stress of mounting bills. Mr. Bilal, after a long and arduous recovery, was eventually discharged from the hospital. He was weak and frail, but his spirit remained unbroken. He was deeply touched by Sajid's generosity, his unwavering support, and his genuine love and concern. "Sajid," he said, his voice hoarse, "you've become the son I never had. I'm so proud of the man you've become." Sajid, his eyes welling with tears, hugged Mr. Bilal tightly. "Your family, Mr. Bilal," he said, "and family takes care of each other." As Mr. Bilal regained his strength, Sajid continued to support him and his family. He visited regularly, helping with household chores, running errands, and simply spending time with his mentor. He also continued to nurture his relationship with Sarah, their bond deepening with each passing day. They had been through so much together, supporting each other through difficult times, and their love had grown stronger and more resilient. One evening, as they were walking in the park, Sajid stopped and turned to Sarah. He took her hands in his eyes filled with love and determination. "Sarah," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "I love you. I've loved you for a long time, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Sarah's eyes filled with tears of joy. She had been waiting for this moment, dreaming of this moment, for years. "I love you too, Sajid," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "I always have." Sajid slipped a ring onto her finger, a simple but elegant diamond that symbolized his enduring love and commitment. They embraced, their hearts overflowing with happiness. Their wedding, a few months later, was a joyous celebration, a testament to their love, their resilience, and the enduring power of kindness. It was a gathering of family and friends, a celebration of the community that had supported them through thick and thin. Mr. Bilal, now fully recovered, walked Sarah down the aisle, his heart filled with pride and gratitude. He gave his blessing to the union, knowing that Sajid and Sarah were meant to be together, their lives intertwined by fate, by kindness, and by a love that had blossomed in the most unexpected of circumstances. Sajid and Sarah settled in Havenwood, building a life filled with love, purpose, and a commitment to giving back to the community. Sajid, true to his word, started his engineering firm, focusing on sustainable development and creating opportunities for the residents of his hometown. Their story became a local legend, a testament to the transformative power of kindness, the enduring strength of the human spirit, and the unbreakable bonds of family and friendship. It was a story that reminded everyone that even in the face of adversity, hope could flourish, love could conquer all, and that a single act of compassion could change the course of multiple lives forever. And it served as proof that what goes around truly does come around, often in the most beautiful and unexpected ways.